I'm feeling is anyone's guess. What is in my head?
The late, great Gord Downie, who you know as well as I, had a special place in his heart for our Indigenous communities and wanted very badly to be a part of Canada's efforts on the journey towards truth and reconciliation. And so it seems fitting on this September the 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, that we play a little bit of The Stranger, which is Gord Downie's song, the first full chapter of The Secret Path, adapted from the book, or the graphic novel, really, that Downie collaborated alongside Jeff Lemire on putting together. It chronicles the story of Cheney Wenjack's residential school experience and subsequent death as he escapes and attempts to walk 600 kilometers home to his family. The Stranger, the first full chapter and song from Gord Downie's album and graphic novel, starting our show on this Tuesday morning, the 30th of September. Welcome to the program. Thank you very much for stopping by, spending some of your time with us. Maybe some of your time today is also devoted to the various events to mark Truth and Reconciliation Day in our community, which I think is terrific. It's a great day for us to pause and to listen and to maybe learn a little bit. I hope we can do that through the show today, a couple of conversations that we will be having, including one just over 30 minutes from now that takes us not too far down the road here from the region of Waterloo to Brant County and the city of Brantford, where a former residential school has been reopened as a museum, and that reopening significantly is today. So you'll learn more about that just after the 9:30 news this morning. And about an hour from now, just after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to get into the orange shirt story, which you may know, or you may know just that this is a day where we wear orange shirts. Regardless, it has been the story that is enshrined in film as part of a new documentary, and we'll dive into the background of that, the meaning of it, and a chance for us to explore and learn through certainly a medium that I've always enjoyed, which is film. So we'll get into that just over an hour from now. Lots to talk about on the show today. And as it is pretty quiet in the hallways here at the radio station, we'll just make our own little bits of noise because, as you know, every day when we start the show, phone lines are open to you at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. A couple of things on my mind as we get underway on the show today. One of them is the story that you've been hearing about through All News Mornings today, and that is the crosses erected in Victoria Park in Kitchener by Healing of the Seven Generations, which is a local organization, Indigenous-based, that's going to be doing its annual walk from its building on Frederick Street down to Victoria Park today, where they would gather at the site of these 215 crosses that were erected in Victoria Park. And as we learned yesterday afternoon, and we're reporting on the follow-up story this morning, about 24 of those crosses were removed. And I don't know the details of this yet. Obviously, there is an investigation underway. But a couple of things really strike me in it. One is the way that the crosses removed were so neatly piled. That doesn't strike me as the act of somebody doing something for nefarious means. But I can't be sure. And I wanted to say that if indeed it was done as a message, you know, in response to these crosses being there and you or somebody not being happy that the crosses are there, I would ask us to take a moment and consider an action like that. Again, recognizing that there is an investigation underway and we don't know full details yet, but all of these conversations we've been having these past many weeks about the freedom of our speech, the freedom of our expression. And I've just got to say that if the idea of an organization erecting crosses in Victoria Park in Kitchener is bothersome to you in some way, to the point that you feel it necessary to remove some of those crosses, boy, oh boy, that is about as soft can be, right? There's a nice consistency of oatmeal in that one for you. I can't wrap my head around it. Let them have their expression. It shouldn't impact you in any way. If you don't like the display of crosses at Victoria Park, then you can just go to another area of Victoria Park for the day, and everything will be just fine, right? So one's freedom of expression to create that display should not be impacted by its presence in any way being a challenge to you. I find that really difficult to wrap my head around. The other thing that I wondered about is when I saw the pictures of this, do we not, and if we do not, should we not have a CCTV camera on the clock tower at Victoria Park in Kitchener? Given, well before this, what we know of the shenanigans that sometimes occur at Victoria Park in Kitchener, would that not be an ideal place for a CCTV camera to just kind of, keep an eye on things? I know. Cameras are not the most popular topic of conversation these days, especially when they come to the cameras on our roads that are tracking people's speeds through various community safety zones. But we have been talking about the use of CCTV cameras. In fact, even lending those cameras that we have around our homes to police for investigative purposes, that police are going to be rolling out a plan that involves the use of CCTV camera technology. And I just thought to myself, if we don't have one on the clock tower at Victoria Park, we are probably missing an area where it would come in handy. And boy, oh boy, wouldn't it have come in handy? I mean, maybe it does exist and I just don't know of its existence, but I don't think that's the case. But that would be incredibly helpful in this particular instance. One of the other things that you may have heard during All News Mornings this morning, and I'll touch on it more during the Farwell Show 5, but how about those big babies in the Bronx, eh? Those big, bad New York Yankees, and how dare you, if you're a Canadian baseball fan, even think for 1 second that you could buy a ticket to see your Toronto Blue Jays play a baseball game, a playoff game, at Yankee Stadium. No. They won't allow you to do that unless you're just in the closest states to the state of New York. Not even Red Sox fans can easily acquire a ticket to see a game at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees and the team itself can use all the excuses that it wants to use for why it's doing this, but let's just be honest. They just don't want the out-of-towners coming to their games. And the funny part about it is, at this point, there is no even guarantee that the Jays will play the Yankees in the next round. The Yankees and Red Sox have to play first, and the Yankees might be a distant memory by the time the Blue Jays open the divisional series. But what a petty, tiny, small, wimpy move on the part of the New York Yankees. On the part of the Toronto Police Service, on the other hand, kudos to you for bringing out the horse that George Springer can ride, tarps off, on Bremner Boulevard to celebrate the Blue Jays' pennant-clinching win on the weekend. I do believe that Springer said something along those lines in his post-game interview as the Jays clinched the AL East on the weekend. He said, I'm going to ride, I think he wanted an RCMP horse, but the Toronto Police Services found the horse just for him, and its saddle has a Blue Jays logo on it. If ever there were a horse for Springer to ride to celebrate the Blue Jays' success, that would be it. Good job by you, Toronto Police Service.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. Number one, Waterloo is losing 2 of its Starbucks locations. The coffee shops at the corner of King and University and Columbia and Fisher Hallman closed abruptly over the weekend. Starbucks says they've reviewed all of their stores and made the decision to close those that do not align with their future plans. There are still more than 24 other Starbucks locations across Waterloo region. Number 2, it started with a sunrise ceremony at the University of Waterloo and a walk with the healing of 7 generations from their building on Frederick Street through downtown Kitchener to Victoria Park starts in about an hour's time. Just a couple of the ways we are marking the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in the region today. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a new Leger poll shows about a third of Canadians believe the country belongs first and foremost to Indigenous peoples. The poll suggests that younger Canadians are far more likely to think the country belongs to Indigenous peoples. However, about 40% of the more than 1,600 people surveyed online last month do not agree that Canada belongs primarily to Indigenous peoples. Number 4, Hamas says it will discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza within the group and with other Palestinian factions before responding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already thrown his support behind it, but it's unclear whether Hamas will agree and when it would give its response. The proposal demands that Hamas effectively surrender and disarm in return for an end to fighting, humanitarian aid for Palestinians, and the promise of reconstruction of Gaza. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, maybe those pinstripes make you sensitive. The New York Yankees are blocking Canadian baseball fans from buying tickets to games should the Jays face the Yankees in the divisional series. But that's not even a guarantee yet, because the Yankees have to play the Red Sox first, a series that begins tonight. A Yankees team representative says the policy preventing out-of-market fans from buying tickets is meant to crack down on ticket scalping. Sure it is. Of course that's the reason. Bunch of big babies. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. We're going to take a break. When we come back, your morning wake-up call. And this is an important one. So call a friend, text a friend, do whatever you need to do to a friend, elbow them. Maybe your elbows are up or sideways. I don't know where your elbows are this morning, but nudge a friend, because we really need to be clear about the dire state of our country's finances as we're still over a month away from the next federal budget delivery. But if you did not hear what our interim parliamentary budget officer had to say, I think you should. And I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but it's important to me that you understand the extent of the financial problems. And that means not just at the federal level, but all the way down to our local level and the rather dire situation we are facing locally when it comes to municipal finances. We'll get into that, and maybe you've got some ideas. I've got a couple that I think might start moving us in a more positive financial direction, but we'll paint the picture for you from Ottawa right down here to the region of Waterloo as we continue the Mike Farwell Show this morning. Your wake-up call is coming up on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I feel like I've been kind of screaming into the wind on this one for quite some time now. I mean, I hope it's screaming into the wind, because otherwise nobody has been listening. Is this thing on? Hello? Is this thing working? Listen, here's the deal. And I know. I am a self-described numbers guy, and I probably spend way too much time running numbers through my mind and wondering how this is all going to work itself out. Believe you me, I see the eye rolls from my beloved on multiple occasions, because it's about this, it's about the budget, it's about the deficit, it's about this. I don't know how. Let me put it this way. I am very curious about that budget that we are going to have delivered federally on November the 4th, because what I was about to say is I don't know how this hasn't sunk in to the people whose job it is to manage these budgets. Like, surely there are more everyday people besides me saying, hello, you can't keep spending money like this. I've talked to you on this show. You've said similar things to me. We use the drunken sailor analogy frequently. I have long stated, and I maintain, that the easiest money to spend is that which is not your own. I feel as though governments are a little bit like casinos. You know, when you go into a casino and there are no clocks and there are no windows, there's just lighting that is deliberately designed to make it feel like daylight, bells, whistles, beautiful sounds, scenery, etc. And then when you sit down and play a game, you don't play a game with actual cash money, not even loonies or toonies. You get chips because it's not like real money then, right? Or you put credits into a slot machine. It just takes away the idea that the money has any actual value, that it's tangible in any way. So if you missed what our interim parliamentary budget officer, Jason Jacques, had to say at a committee hearing in Ottawa the other day, I wanted to share that with you because this sent a shiver down my spine, and I hope that it also at least makes you give more than a passing thought to the budget that's about to come federally. Here's what our interim parliamentary budget officer had to say.
I think everybody should be concerned. It's a really serious day, right? This is the first time in 30 years that we've tabled an economic and fiscal outlook where the fiscal anchor of the general and probably most important fiscal anchor for any government is a declining or at least stable debt to GDP ratio. And this is the first time in 30 years that I've seen one in which that ratio is going up over time. So that's definitely a cause for concern. Certainly on our end, we're hoping and certainly expecting the government, as part of Budget 2025, to clearly indicate what the government plans to do to address this and potentially address this problem, because it's certainly not sustainable.
It is not sustainable. And I think everybody should be concerned, says Jason Jacques, the interim parliamentary budget officer. The debt to GDP ratio, essentially our amount of debt versus our productivity, is meant to be an important fiscal anchor. And for the first time in 30 years, he sees this going up over time as opposed to down. Under the previous regime federally, and I don't mean to throw Justin Trudeau under the bus. He's been under that bus for a long time. It's reversed over him and driven over him again and again. I'm not, but the reality was we talked about debt to GDP ratios under Prime Minister Trudeau. And even as they increased, he assured us they were still at a manageable level. But we keep seeing this number, this debt to GDP ratio, increase. It ain't decreasing. And as the parliamentary budget officer says, this is not sustainable. So we're kind of approaching that cliff, to put it another way, whereby the finances are so out of control. I would liken it, and maybe this is why people want to dismiss it because it sounds alarmist, but I would liken it to those environmental calls to action that said, we've got 12 years and it's irreversible. Well, we're kind of approaching that irreversible point of the state of our nation's finances. And there are implications to that, obviously, right? With our ability to borrow, with our ability to fund all of the programs and services. And apparently, contrary to unpopular opinion, the budget will not balance itself. But I want to bring this home, too, because remember, this is the federal situation we're talking about, and we've got a budget coming out on November the 4th, and I think that's going to tell us how seriously Mark Carney and this current Liberal government are taking the country's finances. But don't forget that provincially even, we learned about 2 weeks ago, that we are in store for, according to the Financial Accountability Office, ballooning budget deficits. By 2028, 2029, almost $8 billion in deficit when we were promised a path back to balance in Ontario. And that's just the year over year deficit. Remember that we're almost $500 billion, about $490 billion in debt here in the province of Ontario, the largest subnational debt anywhere in the world. If your eyes haven't glazed over completely yet, I just want you to know what is also happening here in the region of Waterloo. A couple of weeks back at a meeting of our regional financial committee or finance committee, these are some of the numbers that jump out when you pay attention to our local finances. Look at transit revenue, which is down almost $4 million. I think we can understand why, because all of those international students who used to be riding the buses are not doing that anymore because those numbers have been capped and things have changed dramatically in that department. We are currently, as a region, about 68% debt load. By 2028, it's going to be about 90% of debt. And if it continues on this path, we will, in short order, no longer have the ability to borrow money. Now, consider what's in our 10-year capital forecast, which shows about $7.3 billion in spending, and that figure doesn't include any funding for the new hospital. $7.3 billion over 10 years, and none of that money. So you have to add whatever it's going to take for the new hospital into that. This is the state of our local financial picture. And in one of our 7 municipalities, we've got the 4 townships and the 3 cities that report into our upper tier region. One of those lower tier municipalities was on the hook for about $8 million paid to the region from members of that community who couldn't pay for their water services or their property taxes. If that can't happen, the municipality makes good on it to the region. So there's our lower tier municipalities also feeling the financial crunch. It's not just happening in Ottawa. It's not just happening at Queen's Park. It's happening right here at the region of Waterloo. And there's going to have to be a day of reckoning because reserves are running dry and deficits are going in the absolute wrong direction. I feel it's important that we make you aware of this now, and maybe we can start demanding, not just asking for nicely, but demanding some change when it comes to the way we manage our government's books. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This is our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Our reporter Josh Piercy is out in the community and will be shortly joining members of the Healing of 7 Generations and certainly dozens and dozens of others in the community in a walk from the Healing of 7 Generations building on Frederick Street through downtown Kitchener and into Victoria Park, where those crosses have been erected as a tribute to some of the children who never came home from residential schools. And there is such a school in nearby Brantford, about 40 minutes away from here, where the Ontario Hockey League offers the Kitchener Rangers a new, or should I say returning opponent, because Brantford used to be represented in the Ontario Hockey League way back in the 1980s. It is again, of course, today. The former Mohawk Institute in Brantford, which was the longest running residential school in Canada, did not close until 1970, is now known as the Woodland Cultural Centre, and it is opening its doors today on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as a museum for the first time. Heather George is the executive director at the Woodland Cultural Centre and joins us to talk about it. And I think, Heather, that is as good a starting point as any, opening a former residential school as a museum. And and that opening happening today. What does this opening of the school, the former school, as a museum mean?
I think it means different things to different people. For me, I am just incredibly grateful for all of the work that the staff have put into this, the survivors, all their commitment to sharing their stories and allowing us to care for them. And I think for a lot of the community members, the intergenerational survivors, it's really that proof, that tangible evidence of their experience. And I think it gives people an opportunity to try and put themselves in the space that these children were in.
There was a chance that this never even happened. Maybe the school could have been demolished, and yet here we are now with this museum space that will continue to tell stories, that will continue to allow others to learn. But can you share with us, Heather, what went into arriving at this moment, all of this work that's been done to date?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's been a really long process. About 12 years ago, the roof was starting to collapse on the building. And Janice Bomberry, the former executive director, met with the community and said, what do you want to do with this building? Do we keep it? Do we tear it down? And the majority of community members decided that we should keep it, that we should save the evidence. And so that began a pretty major fundraising campaign. By the time we're done, it's been about $26 million to do this work and 10 years of construction. So it's been quite the undertaking to actually get us to the point that we're at today.
If we consider all those millions of dollars, 26 as you just mentioned, what does that tell you about the importance from the community, from government, from First Nations as well, to see this project through?
We're the only residential school site in Canada interpreted to this extent, and one of very few that you can actually visit as a member of the public. And I think it really speaks to, the idea that truth comes first before reconciliation, and how, members of community, our own community, but also the non-Indigenous community, Canadians at large, saw the importance and value in ensuring that these stories were never forgotten. Really, it is because of those community members, because of those donors, that I think we were also able to go to the government and say, this is something that Canadians want to see happen, that they believe in, and we need your help too. And so we were really, really fortunate to be supported by community, by Canadians at large, and by all levels of government.
What will we be able to learn? What will we be able to experience when we visit?
So as visitors go through the building, we've recreated spaces like classrooms and the dining hall. The laundry room is pretty well exactly how it looked when the children were here. And I think one of the most impactful elements of the interpretation of this building is the quotes, the direct quotes from survivors that are everywhere. They're on the tables, they're on the walls, they're on exhibition panels. You can listen to survivors through the audio listening stations that we have. And I think that's the most powerful element of the interpretation.
How does it feel for you to be in that building as the executive director of this Woodland Cultural Center, a place where even your ancestors went to a residential school?
It's really powerful. There's a quote from my Uncle Doug that's right outside my office, actually, and it says, "We don't want apologies, we want justice." And for me to be here doing this work, it's a huge responsibility and a huge undertaking. But as I said before, I'm grateful to be in this role. I'm tired. It's been a long process. And I'm just, it's a weird thing to look forward to opening a site of conscience, a site where we know genocide occurred. But I'm feeling positive about this being a space where healing can happen, and where we can show not just the worst of what happened to us, but also have the opportunity through our contemporary art exhibitions and our programming to share all of the best of what we are as Indigenous people and everything that our communities worked so hard to save despite residential schools.
What do you hope visitors take away from their visit to the center?
I hope that I really hope that it connects with their hearts. I think a big part of doing this work around residential schools and around this history is that it's not just intellectual. I had a really great colleague at one of the meetings I worked at before, and I asked her one time, how come you get this? Because she's non-Indigenous. And she said, it's really, you have to do the heart work. It's not just about the intellectual. So I hope that it's an opportunity for people to do that heart work, to connect emotionally to this history, not just intellectually. And I hope that they see the strengths of our communities and the joy that we still have despite everything that was done to our family members.
Obviously, this day holds significance beyond just the opening of this museum, as we are at September 30th and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. What does this day mean to you, Heather? How does it make you feel?
It's an overwhelming day. It's always a really busy day for us here at Woodland, and that can be hard sometimes because we're also thinking of our own family members and holding a lot of space for others, for their emotions, for their learning. But it's also a really powerful day, and I think it's something, it's a good opportunity for folks who are maybe early in their learning to kind of step into spaces that they might not feel that they should be in those spaces otherwise, or they might not feel comfortable in those spaces. And it's an invitation, I think, really this day is an invitation for all Canadians to start their journey of reconciliation.
Going back more than that decade, to starting the planning for this, to being at this moment and all of the work that goes into it, I have read your words, Heather. I have seen your face everywhere for several days now. I do hope there's a plan for a little bit of rest in the not too distant future.
Well, we do close for 2 days.
Good. Okay.
So everybody at Woodland gets 2 days off, and then we're back at it on Friday. But I'm taking some time with my family, with my daughter, and then with a couple of my staff here that I work with, and just maybe spend a little bit of time at a spa and try and process everything we've been through. A lot of folks are asking how I feel, and it's some of it is just we haven't even had the time to process yet how we feel, to talk about the conversations that we've individually had with people. So it'll take, I think, a little bit of time for us to kind of work through everything that we're feeling and that we're hearing and that the conversations we're having. But yeah, we at least get 2 days off.
It is richly deserved at a minimum, and really appreciate that you've made time for our show today and helped us understand the story better as well. Thank you very much for being here.
You're so welcome.
Heather George is the executive director of the Woodland Cultural Centre in Brantford, the former Mohawk Residential School, which is opening today as a brand new $26 million endeavor museum. So visitors from near and far can experience it for themselves and take that step forward on the journey towards truth and reconciliation, understanding, wherever you happen to be on the path today. This new museum, which is a 45-minute-ish drive from the region of Waterloo, offers all kinds of opportunity. I know that this day has had its share of missteps. There has been criticism of the person who enshrined it into legislation, made it a national holiday here in Canada. And I recognize that some have felt as though this is our great shame, and why would we spend time remembering that great shame? Listen, it doesn't mean having a day like this and holding a day like this and remembering what happened through our residential school system and so many other parts of our history does not mean we are forbidden from celebrating so many great things that this country has done and has to offer. It just means that for a day, we, with some intention, spend some time reflecting on these things and how we might do better moving forward. I love it, to be honest with you. I hear so many stories. I've read so many great things leading up to this day that I welcome this. And I still keep asking the question, how on earth did I spend decades in our school system not even having the faintest understanding of residential schools, the historic treatment of our Indigenous community members? It blows my mind. I'm happy for that knowledge that I'm able to gain today, thanks in part to people like Heather George and others who have been willing to share stories and give us the spaces to learn. I don't know how you feel about this day and its importance on our calendar, but I'm always happy to hear those thoughts. It's an interactive show, after all. The Mike Farwell Show is. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I'm feeling positive about this being a space where healing can happen and, where we can show not just the worst of what happened to us, but also have the opportunity through our contemporary art exhibitions and our programming to share all of the best of what we are as Indigenous people and everything that our communities worked so hard to save despite residential schools.
Heather George is the executive director at the Woodland Cultural Centre in Brantford, the former Mohawk residential school that reopens today in all its splendor as a museum. And of course, the significance of opening today on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is not lost on a single one of us, I am sure. Let's go to the phones, get some of your September 30th thoughts. Francis, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I have I don't know how I might be able to say this. My parents brought up, I went to God's Country School up in Formosa there, and my parents took care of two children, a boy and a girl, and we stayed in touch for many years later after they were grown up, and we always had a great time, never had problems. Even my wife used to cut the hair. Lloyd seemed to know when we used to come up to visit my parents, and they'd lived in Washington later, and it would cut his hair for him, and we only had good memories, and they're great people. They're not afraid of heights. We know that the skyscrapers and stuff are brought up with what they now call Indigenous people. And Lloyd, he would drive my dad nuts. He used to hang from the barn carrier. My dad used to go looking for him. He says, "Hey, Dad, up here." He says, "Oh, if you break your neck, I'm going to kick your ass for you." My friend. And we only had great memories, so those are my thoughts. I think we should talk a lot more about how many of the different ones turned up to be great people, and they were great people, and we had great times together.
Francis, I appreciate the call and the memories, the positive memories that you have of, as a youngster, having a couple of Indigenous children growing up in the home with you. I think it's great to hear. Dallas, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Number 30 here.
Farwell's Force official member.
I just want to pay homage to the Indigenous, absolutely 100%. We had a huge reserve not far from Gaspé down in eastern Quebec. And I got to tell you, same as what the last gentleman just said, any one of them I ever met, they're nothing but good people. This country turned its back for a long time on a whole bunch of nonsense. And I think it's about time that we started giving those folks the recognition they deserve. Because, let's face it, we've heard it time and time again. We came in and stole their land, basically. Treaties, all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't, it was treaties, if you will, but on our terms, not theirs. And, I'll just leave it at that.
Dallas, really appreciate that call and the sentiment as well. It is, from all the reading I've done and all that I've been able to learn over the years, like what a beautiful way of life. That, like, I understand progress and the need for it, but just think of the respect for the land being the mother, right? The earth and the water and all of these different beliefs, rituals associated with that land, etc. It really is an absolutely beautiful way of life. And slowly but surely, we continue. Again, there were 94 calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. How many of those have we followed through on to this point? Probably. Depends on your perspective, but certainly not even close to all 94 from that commission. We continue to take steps. And I think that's important. And without over-celebrating it, I think it's notable to say, hey, we are making progress, however slowly. And some of that progress made yesterday in Saskatchewan, where Conservative Premier Scott Moe issued the following apology.
Residential, there be day or industrial schools, are a shameful mark on Canada's history, with harmful intergenerational impacts on Indigenous and Métis people. Simply put, these schools were a mistake, and they shouldn't have existed. Today, we acknowledge the role of the province of Saskatchewan and previous Saskatchewan governments in the operation of the Isle Across School until 1970s, into the 70s. And today, on behalf of the province of Saskatchewan, I apologize to you.
That is Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe at a media conference yesterday, issuing that apology for the existence of residential schools, which, as he said, were a mistake. Remember, the whole idea behind them was to, for lack of a better term, beat the Indian out of the young person in that school, right? We were supposed to assimilate them with the white settlers of the land of the time. And it is, unfortunately, a black mark in our history. From those black marks to the orange shirts that you will see everywhere today. I'm wearing mine from the Healing of 7 Generations in Kitchener. And I think you probably recognize that orange is the color of the day, but do you remember the orange shirt story itself and why it is that we have decided to make orange the color of the day, and in particular, orange shirts? We'll get into that story as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is very likely that you will see an awful lot of orange around the community today, because that is the color we wear when we mark days of Indigenous significance. And this is our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and hence you will see that orange being worn. And of course, the orange is intentional, as it harkens back to the original orange shirt story. But if you don't know the origins of that story, a new documentary under that same name, Orange Shirt Story, it's Phyllis Webstad's story. The new documentary tells the tale, and it had its premiere at a film festival in British Columbia just last week. Kathleen Lutet is the co-founder of the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau and joins us for a conversation this morning. And we're going to focus on that documentary. And maybe, Kathleen, that's the best place to start, is the story itself. And what was the inspiration for creating the documentary?
Thanks for asking that, Mike. Well, at our organization, the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau, we have a policy that if we have a residential school survivor that is willing to share their story, we only ever want them to have to share it once. And so, for obvious reasons, we don't want them to have to relive something that was painful, and it still continues to be. And so, working with them in a safe way and one that allows them to be in control of how the story comes out is much more of a preference. And it's from that recording, which belongs to them, that we are able to help provide insight and education to those everywhere else.
What was it like for you in hearing this story and the care that I'm sure you wanted to and needed to take with putting it to film?
It was an amazing privilege to work with Phyllis and to be able to help her share much more than she may have had opportunity to do before. And what I mean by that is, in this particular story, you're actually going to get a chance to get to know Phyllis and her family a little bit more, and what it was like before residential school, and what their community would have been like, which is a real, I think, significant piece to this. The story itself is one that getting to hear it from the survivor is very powerful, but hearing her take on not only the experience and what her family has gone through and who they are, but being able to come around and hear from her expression of hope for all of us going forward is really powerful. And I think a testament to, where we want to be at this time, when there is so many different paths of learning and unlearning to happen, that Phyllis has gifted us this opportunity to meet in one place, to remember why we are doing September 30th, why there's Orange Shirt Day, why we have this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and why every child matters.
If we were to give the trailer to this film in audio form, Kathleen, what is Phyllis's story that we will be able to hear in this documentary?
Like I said, you're going to be able to hear the story that inspired this global movement, that helped people to understand why we had to have this day, why it is so significant, why it's so important. You're also going to hear the story that has helped so many other survivors have the ability and courage to share their own stories, which is a big part of what we need in order to move forward towards truth and reconciliation. It's a truth that belongs to all of us. It's a truth that we all need to know in order to be able to move forward towards reconciliation. And so hearing these stories is a part of that. And for, I would say, too long, these survivors had carried that burden for all of us. And so now it's our turn to take up the reins here and make sure that we can carry it forward and to keep the conversations going.
What do you hope people take away from this film when they watch it?
I hope that they, one, for those that never got the chance to know about this history, that they get to reclaim it, that they get to embrace it. And what I mean by that is that in order for us to create pathways forward, we all have to be able to meet somewhere together. And this path, and there's many pathways that need to be taken, but it's a moment where we can all come together, know this truth that hasn't been shared, and be able to decide where we can go from there. And so it's like I said, it's a tremendous gift, and I really hope folks will take the time to get to know something they may not have known before, but do have that opportunity and responsibility to today. And I also want to challenge them to invite their friends and their families and colleagues to join them in the conversation, meaning if share this with at least 10 other people is what we're asking people, 10 for 10 on this 10th year. Share this with 10 others and join the conversation, have the conversation together, because when we have enough people in Canada or abroad that know the story, now we're going to make that ripple effect that's needed in order to make some real movement forward.
I really like that phrasing, the ripple effect, because I'm certain, Kathleen, that it's not lost on you, the weight of this project, if you will, because of its ability to reach so many people, and then they will consume it wherever they are on their reconciliation or truth journey and decide where for them the next step begins. But this is a powerful medium to share the message.
I agree. I agree. And I think, far too often we look to others to be able to come to us and share the story and share education. But this is an opportunity for you to go to that place so that we don't burden the others with their time and the time that they have left. And as you know, many survivors are still here, but we're losing more and more each day. And so this is a history for all of us to embrace and make sure that we don't forget. When we forget, then we forget all the possibilities that come with this.
You mentioned earlier that one of the motivations with a documentary like this is to prevent a survivor from retelling their story. Now, in fairness, Phyllis hasn't been shy about that, has she? She has shared this story, deeply personal, and I can only imagine the difficulty, but she's shared it many times. Was it difficult in any way to approach this story, given that Phyllis had shared it prior, but you wanted to do it in a different way?
Yeah, I will say the biggest motivation here for us and that we would like to convey to other folks is to recognize that our residential school survivors are the most generous and graceful beings, and that they are willing to, I will say, dare say, sacrifice themselves in sharing something that was so painful and difficult to go through for all of our benefit, meaning they don't want history to repeat itself. They don't want any other child in this world to ever go through this particular experience or anything like it. And so they're willing to share at their own expense, often to their own mental health, their own physical health, to their own time and energy. And as a result, many of them are not necessarily given the chance to live out their days in a way that is much more peaceful and much more resonant of just existing in a different way. And so even for Phyllis, her passion for this is deeply seated in that, in making sure that not just her, but that other survivors get a chance to share their stories. And so she has gifted all of us this. And so ISB wants to gift Phyllis and all the other survivors the opportunity to not have to carry such a burden, and for others to be able to learn that story here.
It caught my ear earlier also, Kathleen, when you said that there was a message of hope or a hopefulness to this story from Phyllis. Do you come away on this 10th anniversary of National Truth and Reconciliation Day with sharing any of that sense of hope that Phyllis has?
I do, and largely because of Phyllis and our survivors, because of the fact every single one of them, I mean, they're all in different spaces and places, but majority, I would say, carry this hope for the future, and that's why they do share their stories. And so for me, I feel like part of this responsibility that we have is to continue that hope, to continue the hope that they have and carry that light forward. And so even though some parts might be, and mind you to say that this film is done in a way because of Phyllis mostly and her gracefulness, in a way that helps you to know the story, but not be stuck in it, in the sense of motivating you to want to move forward, and also inspiring that hope in you as well. And so I think that's a powerful message going forward, because I always say we all are on different paths of learning and unlearning, but this bridge that Phyllis has given us helps us to come together in a good way and to really find those paths forward together.
I know that in recent days you have celebrated with an Indigenous Film Festival. For others, where will we be able to find this documentary and learn ourselves?
Thank you. Well, I will say we actually had the film premiere. So it was the first time that this film was shown in theater, and it was here in the Kamloops. And I think there's no accidents in that. A lot of serendipity that came together in a short period of time to make that happen, and beautiful folks that were involved. But until other screenings have been collaborated or brought forward, in the meantime, people can go to our website, osd.isb.ca, at isb.ca, and be able to rent it online. And again, I say, have the conversation at home. Have everybody, watch it at home, watch it at work, watch it with your friends, watch it with family, and encourage, or we invite you to encourage on this 10th year anniversary of the release of that report and calls to action, to get 10 people to know this story. This is the one story that can help light the way. So.
It means an awful lot to us, Kathleen. It really does, that you could make time for us on this day, because I recognize that in the role that I have in media, we as media are a key part of many of those calls to action within what we learned from Mr. Sinclair and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So thank you for helping us. I don't want to say check that box, because this isn't tokenism, but thank you for helping us along this journey as media. And before I let you go, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't just ask for maybe reflections that you have on this 10th anniversary of the significance of this day, what it means to you, how you feel on this September the 30th.
I always tell folks, September 30th, or Orange Shirt Day, this National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, it has two distinctly different experiences that people should be aware of. For Indigenous people, September 30th is a day of mourning, of healing, of reconnection, personal connection that has resulted from the history that we all share. And for non-Indigenous people, it's a National Day of Acknowledgement and Remembrance, and a time to embrace what might have not been known, or what's been forgotten, and what has yet to be reclaimed. And for me, that's literally where I'll be. I will be with community here, and having that reflection and that opportunity to just reconnect to all those that never came home, to all those that did and that are still here today, and all those that have since gone on and whose stories never got a chance to be shared. So I'll be in that. But at the same time, because of conversations like this, Mike, and thank you so much, for yourself and others in media for making that point of ensuring that we are here and keeping the conversation going. That's where hope elevates inside of me, that the stories of my relatives that spent time in school, that their experience will not be for naught, that we're keeping this going together. So thank you so much, Nina Schoolman.
My thanks is returned to you tenfold for making time again on this day, helping us to understand more. I can't wait to see the film myself. And thank you very much for being with us today, Kathleen.
Hi, my pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
Kathleen Lutet is the co-founder of the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau. They were able last week to have the premiere screening of the Orange Shirt Day story, Phyllis Webstad's story, which has been given the documentary film treatment, and a way of sharing that story with a broader audience without asking Phyllis to share the story again. And that's just another opportunity for us. It's right there. Nobody's forcing it down your throat, but you can watch that documentary and learn a little bit more as we mark this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a day that's being marked around our region in a variety of ways, which I will share with you as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
What we need in order to move forward towards truth and reconciliation. It's a truth that belongs to all of us. It's a truth that we all need to know in order to be able to move forward towards reconciliation. And so hearing these stories is a part of that. And for, I would say, too long, these survivors had carried that burden for all of us. And so now it's our turn to take up the reins here and make sure that we can carry it forward and to keep the conversations going.
Kathleen Lutet is the co-founder of the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau, which last week was able to hold the premiere screening of the Orange Shirt Day story documentary. Just another opportunity for us to gain some understanding as to why orange is the color, why orange shirts specifically, and I think deepen our understanding of the importance of our Indigenous neighbors in the creation of the land that we continue to enjoy today. Maybe checking out that documentary at some point is on your list of things to do when it comes to your own journey down this path towards truth and reconciliation. This being the National Day for it. As you know, many events happening. We've had our reporter Josh Piercy on the street through the morning. He was at the sunrise ceremony and gathering at the University of Waterloo earlier, and he's currently with the large crowd on the walk from the Healing of Seven Generations on Frederick Street in Kitchener down to Victoria Park. We spoke earlier, just under an hour ago, with the executive director of the Woodland Cultural Centre in Brantford, which is now reopening. It's a former residential school, the former Mohawk Institute Residential School, now reopened as a museum. And those doors opened for the first time just about 20 minutes ago at 10 this morning. In Guelph later today, there will be an after-school gathering at the Guelph Civic Museum on Norfolk Street. That's happening between 3:30 and 5:30. And then in Market Square, downtown Guelph, there will be an event called The Song Blanket, which is a storytelling concert with Rebecca Haas. That's this evening at 7. Our libraries in both Kitchener and Waterloo have created reading lists and resources in honor of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And the KPL's Southwest branch is hosting a Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Memorial Art Installation this coming Friday at 10. But you can check out kpl.org or wpl.ca for further information there. A couple of professors from the University of Waterloo looked at what we are experiencing in our workplaces when it comes to Indigenous issues and how the workplace might help us. I think of a day like today, I kind of think of it like Remembrance Day and always the conversations about should it be a national holiday? Should we keep kids in school to learn more? I hope these conversations are happening robustly in classrooms around our region today. But for those of us outside of school, what can we learn from our workplaces? How can our workplaces support our understanding? And in an online survey of 500 adults in the region, about 54% agreed that employers should provide education on the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada, including the legacy of residential schools. And more than 62% supported skills-based training in conflict resolution that reflects Indigenous world views. And finally, the big number, 83% agreed that employers should provide skills-based training in anti-racism. So opportunities for places of employment to enable and empower further understanding. I suppose you wouldn't have to be on site to get that. I'll leave that aside. You know how I think we should all go back to an office, right? I know I'm old school that way, but what an opportunity for us to gather together and learn from each other. An update on the way from the 570 News Centre, and then we're going to twin that ice surface in North Dumfries. You bet we are. How are we going to fundraise for it? We'll talk about that coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you have not yet enjoyed the North Dumfries Community Complex in the beautiful Village of Ayr, you're missing out. I was talking to one of my coworkers this morning about that building, and we agreed that it is a real jewel in the community and more broadly in the township of North Dumfries, the home of the Ayr Centennials and so much more as a centerpiece for that community, the North Dumfries Community Complex. As you probably know, if you've been keeping up with the news, there has been conversation about and now a plan to twin the ice surface, add another sheet of ice to that North Dumfries community complex so that more people can enjoy what it has to offer. And along with that decision on the part of North Dumfries Township Council to move forward with the twinning of the arena, the community will get involved and raise some of the money to make that project happen. Joining us to talk more about that this morning, Russ Hutchings, who's the deputy chair of the Live and Play 2 campaign. Russ, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, sir. How are you?
Excellent.
Glad to hear it. Along with Russ this morning, we have Mike Play with us as well. Mike is the co-chair of the Live and Play 2 campaign. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having us.
It's a real pleasure. Happy to talk about things like this, not only because I think the NDCC already is such a jewel, but I love the way the community gets involved. And I don't know what's in the water out there in North Dumfries, but it's been impressive what this group, the Centre for Community Group, has done to date. And Russ, maybe I'll start with you on that. Can you kind of take us back to the formation of the Centre for the Community Group and how this all got started for you?
Well, it started in 2004. A group of young families got together, and we saw a need. The Queen Elizabeth arena was getting dated, and we had tremendous growth with hockey and other sports in our township. So we got together and did golf tournaments and galas to raise funds to do a needs assessment for our township. And in 2008, the needs assessment identified that we need 2 ice surfaces and more facilities for our growing township.
And thus that led us to the North Dumfries Community Complex, right?
Yes, correct. And as you mentioned, you won't find a finer facility in the area. We're quite proud the way the community center has grown. 15 years ago, no one would have thought about pickleball. We have a community hall in there that seniors are playing pickleball and younger people. And it's continued to grow. We have beach volleyball in the back with the soccer fields, a skateboard park, again, that we've contributed to along with the beach volleyball because it's a real buzz and hub for the community.
How much, Russ, looking back to 2004 when these families came together, how much were you able to fundraise to get the project off the ground initially?
The beginning program was to achieve $1.5 million. But we got, as you mentioned, we got a great community, and the CCG is more of a conduit for the community to fundraise, and we overachieved that with $2.15 million, which was fantastic. And at that point in time, we really felt the need for a twin pad, but it got voted down for council. So with the excess funds, we've invested and been able to put some funds away for this upcoming twin pad.
So, Mike, that brings us to today and those young families from 2004, a little bit older now. But what are we hoping to do in order to support the twin pad at North Dumfries Community Complex?
Well, the overall project cost for it is going to be about $16.19 million. It doesn't include just the ice pad. It actually includes 2 new major community halls that are part of it. So there's a lot of programming that'll be available now for the community on top of the ice surfaces, the gymnasium, the soccer fields, and so on. So it's going to be a real complete facility. So our portion that we signed up to do with the township is $2.12 million. And now the good news is, of course, that the CCG had some money in the kitty, so we've kick-started the campaign with our commitment for $700,000, and then we agreed to run the balance of the fundraising campaign.
How will people be able to contribute to that, Mike?
Well, that's the good news, is that actually tomorrow we should be doing our campaign launch. And with that campaign launch, our website will be available. People can go on to ccgnd.ca and look at the different opportunities to donate. We have about 24 naming opportunities so that people can make a donation and have their name put up. We have a donor wall, so if you make a donation of more than $1,000, you'll be on the donor wall. Plus, one of the things that was very successful the first campaign is that we are having a seat sale. So there's about 350 seats remaining in the existing arena that's there now that we're selling for about $350 a piece, and the people can start to donate and contribute and get their name put on the seat on a little name plaque. So you combine all these things together. We've actually been working quite hard on the setting up of the campaign, and we went out to a lot of our initial donors from the initial, or the bigger donors from the initial campaign, and we anticipate that we're going to have some donations and announcements over the next few weeks that will be in our social media and be in the news.
Mike, what is it about this facility as it exists today? Why is it so integral to the community?
It's actually, it's because it provides a little bit of everything to everybody. Really a diverse set of clientele. Russ mentioned pickleball. Well, Russ and I play pickleball, and we're sort of the old geezers in the main McNeil Hall, the gymnasium hall facility that's there. And then right across from that, there's this fitness room, and we laughed because during the summer there were these little kids that were probably 4 years and younger that were running their summer camp out of there and going out and using the soccer fields and everything out in the back. So it really does appeal to everybody. It has a seniors room, it has a youth room, it has the sports facilities. Obviously, it has the ice surfaces. So it actually appeals to a whole bunch of people. Actually, AIR has become a satellite for the Scorpions volleyball club out of Cambridge because of the beach volleyball program that can be run there. As an example. So we're covering just about every aspect of the community with that facility.
Russ, you talked about the first time around when you came to the community as a group for some fundraising with a goal of $1.5 million. You end up at $2.15 million. Here we are now looking for that 2.2 that you've committed, or 2.12, I think you said, committed to fundraising, and you're off to a good start with the money that you had in the kitty from last time. So I guess 1.4-ish is what you're looking to add to it this time around. But how confident are you that the community will get behind this effort again?
Well, I think Mike's mentioned that we haven't officially launched, and we've had people reach out to us. Even once they found out Township was moving ahead with the program and the project, we had people reach out to Township Council saying, "How can we be involved? How can we donate?" So we're pretty confident that if the community comes together like they did last time, we'll definitely achieve our goal. But you never know. It's not over till it's over, till Yogi said, and we got to turn every stone to try to get to that 2.15 million. But again, as we've mentioned, we got a great community, and people have reached out to us already, even before we've launched.
You certainly do have a great community. I know what the building as it stands today means to you, and I have no doubt that North Dumfries will, and beyond, will rally again for this real jewel in AIR. So, gentlemen, I wish you the best of luck. Please keep us posted on the progress, and thank you very much for being here today.
Good. Okay, thank you for having us, Mike.
Mike Play and Russ Hutchings joining us on the show. Russ is the deputy chair of the Live and Play 2 campaign, Mike the co-chair. Live and Play 2 is an effort by the Center for the Community Group, which began back in 2004 when there was a vision of building that space in North Dumfries where the entire community could come together to live, play, and thrive. And even though then, it reminds me a little bit of Ira Needles Boulevard here in Waterloo. Even though in 2004 they thought a twin pad would have been the right choice, it was voted down. Just like we started Ira Needles at a 2-lane road, even though some people said, look, we're going to need 4 lanes eventually. We should do 4 lanes quickly. And we didn't. And then even ahead of the prediction, we need 4 lanes on Ira Needles. Sometimes I think we should just listen to the community. Anyway, it was voted down then, but now the approval has been granted. And it's a multi-million-dollar project to not only twin the arena and add that ice surface, but to build these 2 other community halls. This is going to be a net zero project, and the Center for the Community Group has committed to contributing more than $2 million through community fundraising to support that project and see it through to its completion. So just when you start hearing more about the fundraising in the community and the efforts being made, remember that Russ and Mike were here first telling you that that fundraising campaign is going to be launching tomorrow, which, I hate to break it to you, is October. We're going to flip a calendar page tomorrow, but the Live and Play 2 fundraising campaign will kick off in earnest tomorrow. And I got to say, having been a guest at the North Dumfries Community Complex on numerous occasions and been treated royally by the fine folks, not just in Ayr and North Dumfries, but with the Ayr Centennials organization, the thought of putting one's name on a seat there in the North Dumfries Community Complex is a pretty appealing idea, if I do say so myself. It's the Live and Play 2 fundraising campaign. It will officially launch tomorrow. You can learn more online at ccgnd.ca. Center for the Community Group, CCG, and then ND for North Dumfries, ccgnd.ca. Campaign officially launches tomorrow, but we give you a little heads up this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you didn't know of its existence already, there is a dictionary of Canadianisms that exists. It's technically entitled A Dictionary of Canadianisms on Historical Principles. And the 3rd edition of it has just been released. If I were to ask you the most quintessentially Canadian word, what do you think would appear in the Dictionary of Canadianisms? And in this 3rd edition just released, given the state of our world today, what do you think was just enshrined on the pages of that dictionary? This is an online dictionary, and it goes well beyond our famous AEH, right? As you might expect, a Dictionary of Canadianisms has hockey lingo up the proverbial yin-yang. Rink rat is in there, goal suck is in there, and deek is in the Dictionary of Canadianisms, both as a noun and as a verb. We consider our natural beauty as a country, and we talk about the landscape in very Canadian ways, like oak opening, lightning place, drunken forest, and drowned lands. The fellas that I know that like to hang out in the forest are usually drunk while they're in the forest. I don't know that the forest itself is drunken. Don't forget, of course, about maple washing, something that Ontario Premier Ford has been very upset about as we've entered this new era of trade with the United States and companies that are trying to maple wash their products to make us think that they're more Canadian than they really are. How about the existence of the term rig pig, someone who works in the Alberta oil fields? You're a rig pig if you do that. And how about these? I didn't know this, but that are not used at all by Americans, despite our close relationship. Well, our formerly close relationship when it comes to trade, of course, but we're right next door to one another. And yet Americans have no use for the words or phrases brown bread, fire hall, frosh week, or chirp, as in taunt or insult. Also, keener. very uniquely Canadian, no American influence whatsoever. However, there are former Canadianisms that we have allowed, much like our TV consumption, to be overtaken by the American style. For example, we long referred to those things around the roofs of our houses as eaves troughs. We look at those machines where we can put in a card and take out money as bank machines. We also have scribblers and bachelor apartments, or should I say had scribblers and bachelor apartments, because eaves troughs have been replaced more commonly with the very American gutter. A bank machine here in Canada, the former Canadianism, is now best known as an ATM, which is an American style. Our scribbler is now most often called a notebook. And our bachelor apartment, well, that is now a studio, much like the Americans call it. But when I started all of this, I thought of what is the most quintessentially Canadian word, and it's probably a, because we're very known for that. Maybe it should be a boot, because apparently that's how we sound to Americans when we say about. However, the other question I asked you is, in this new era, as the third edition comes out, what do you think one of the newest entries in the Dictionary of Canadianisms on Historical Principles is? Well, that, of course, would be none other than elbows up, making its way into the dictionary. Third edition Dictionary of Canadianisms. Elbows up. It seems as though our elbows are up and we are really taking aim at and pulling no punches, nor lowering any elbows when it comes to our thoughts on this AI actress. Did you hear about this on All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas? Her name, and I'm reluctant to even give her like the actual description of an actress or a person by calling her, because she is completely and utterly generated by artificial intelligence. Goes by the name Tilly Norwood. And she, if you will, comes from a studio that is now creating these AI-generated performers. Now, as you can imagine, talent unions, actors unions, film studios are saying you can't call this creation a person or an actor or actress because they are not real. But the crazy thing about this to me is that apparently there are multiple talent agencies that are interested in signing this creation to a contract. So presumably the creators of Tilly Norwood would benefit financially from those contract terms. But I cannot, for the life of me, wrap my head around this idea. I mean, we knew it existed already. How many times have we talked on this show about don't believe everything you see online anymore? No matter what the video looks like, you better check the authenticity of it. Photos the same. Started with photos, got into live action. Now you have this person who looks very much lifelike, this creation that's very much lifelike, and is being used in major motion pictures. Artificial intelligence generates this performer, and now some agencies want to sign it. I'm going to say it to a contract. I don't think you can get in any trouble, no matter what you say in a negative way about Tilly Norwood, because it is not a real person. Like, how can you hurt a computer's feelings? I don't think that you can. Anyway, if this is not this week's sign of the apocalypse, I don't know what is. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, when we turn the calendar tomorrow to October the 1st, we officially enter National Drive Electric Month. And as you would expect, there will be an event here in the region to celebrate that. I think driving electric is having a bit of a moment right now. And I'm not sure that moment is the most optimistic moment. But I think the fellas that are joining me in studio right now will have a perspective on that. Mark Coughlin is the founder of the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And Ian Graham with us as well, a member of said association. And, of course, an electric vehicle owner himself. Ian, good morning.
Good morning. Mark,
let me start with you and the Electric Vehicle Association. And kind of alluding to what I mentioned off the top, I mean, I think we're in an interesting moment for electric vehicles. What's the sentiment within the association?
Yeah, there's certainly been some ups and downs this year when it comes to EVs. But I think it's still positive out there. We're still seeing a negative drop in pricing on EVs, so that's a positive. Yes, we have seen the tariff situation hit EVs as well as it hits ICE vehicles, and there are consequences to that. We're going to see less sales this year. We saw the federal government put a pause on the EV credit system. That's going to be a bit of a negative down push on EVs. But we're also seeing adoption is starting to accelerate. We got more and more people that are getting into EVs. At the beginning of the year, Canada as a whole hit 15% adoption rate for sales of new EVs. So it's come down a bit since January because of the stuff just mentioned, but still, we seem to be moving along in a positive way.
What might be, Mark, the biggest barriers to increasing that market share, to more people adopting EV technology?
I think it's going to be the amount of EVs available for purchase. With the automakers backing off of EV production because of what's happening in the U.S., we're going to, in turn, receive a little bit less of inventory of EVs here in Canada. And that, of course, is going to reduce the amount that can be sold here. So I see that as a challenge that's coming up in 2025, 2026.
Ian, what was it that inspired you to enter the EV market?
Seeing a tweet from Mark. I'm not saying X, I'm saying tweet from Mark about WR Voltec, which was the name at the time of the group. And they were going to go to Detroit to see the production of the Chevy Volt. And I, at the time, was doing a major renovation on a rental property. And I was like, I'm tired. This came up. I'm like, I need a day off. So I reached out to Mark. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up with a Chevy Volt. And then from there, went to a Model 3 and now a Model Y. And done some major trips with it between here and the cabin, 6 hours north, and then this January went to Mexico and back.
In the electric vehicle?
In the electric car, yeah.
So share a little bit of that experience with us, if you could, because one of the things I hear about frequently, and I'm sure you have too, is range anxiety, not to mention even with all of the information you have available to you about where you can charge, oh my goodness, you get to that charging station and it's not in operation. These are some of the horror stories I've heard, if you will, but take us through the experience of being behind the wheel of that vehicle.
To be really honest now, I find we're doing these extreme trips. So I had a friend who just drove from Toronto to the Arctic Circle in an Ioniq 5. He also had driven from Quebec City to Mexico, is where I first met him. We had 3 guys in Cybertrucks go from Florida to the Arctic Circle. So the range anxiety thing, to me, it's kind of a lot of, misinterpretation and hypotheticals which people put themselves in, which isn't realistic. The fact of the matter is 95% of us drive less than 50 kilometers a day for 95% of the time. The road trips that we do that are 500 or 600 kilometers happen once or twice a year, and anything beyond that's even less. So it's a bit frustrating when I hear range anxiety, and especially because the charging network only keeps growing. And I always tell people, if you're really that worried about it, if you do the math, if you had to rent even, say, a hybrid for that long road trip that you might be away for a week or a weekend, even at that, you're still saving a ton of money because, the 95% of the time that you're charging at home, well, it's like $7-8 for 500 kilometers. And that really adds up. And, our market is also in terms of yes, there's maybe a holdback on the newer production of EVs, But the used market I'm seeing is just growing huge. And I know so many people have gotten into them and just absolutely why didn't we do this earlier? And they're getting good value. I mean, a Tesla that's 60, 70 grand, I've seen guys get it for like 30 and, really happy with it and saving a ton.
Mark, how did you become an EV devotee?
It was about 11 years ago. I was sitting on the couch with my wife watching the evening news, and I saw the story about raising gasoline prices for the Labor Day weekend. And I complained openly on the couch to the television, and my wife said to me, "Why don't you do something about it? You complain about this all the time." So I started looking into it. And back 11 years ago, the choices were pretty slim, but there were solutions available when it came to EVs. I went out, I tried a couple test drives, I went to a few different places, I talked to people that were knowledgeable, and in about a year after that point, I bought my first EV.
And you haven't looked back?
I have not looked back, and I'm so thankful. The money I've saved on gasoline purchase has been remarkable over the past 11 years.
Have you encountered any problems with the vehicles that needed a mechanic's assistance that maybe that mechanic or that tech doesn't exist?
No. Over the 11 years, I have not run into that situation. I'm sure they exist, but really, as the association has talked about this amongst our members, a lot of us have never experienced that type of a thing.
Are you worried at all, given the current state of our economies, the tariff war, et cetera, that the future of EVs may not be sustained?
I can't see that at this point. Once we hit 15%, once we hit like 10%, you start to get a momentum behind you because you now have people that will never go back to gasoline. Their next vehicle, as Ian has already mentioned, was moving on to another EV. And that's the way I feel. I've done 3 EVs now. I'll never buy another gas vehicle. And I bet you that more than 99% of our members would never buy another gas vehicle. So as someone becomes part of the EV family, it's really tough for them to leave because there are so many benefits.
It's like the mafia.
Yeah.
Every time I try to get out.
It's interesting to that point. The only gas I use is a 14-foot aluminum boat up the cabin. And I also have a solar electric pontoon boat that I converted. And so that gas boat eventually is going to be converted to electric. And I mean, my home is completely off gas now as of 2 years ago. The cabin up north is completely off. And that's the other aspect. A lot of people, when they start getting into this and they go like, oh, we can put solar up on our homes. And now we're, electrifying literally everything. And then the big thing that's coming about is now the battery backup as well. I just had an insurance company contact me about talking about battery backup because that's becoming a huge thing. More and more people want that resilience. Norway, and talking about percentages, Norway is now 95% electric vehicles. And they're, as far as I'm concerned, the same as Canada in terms of they got the mountains, they got the cold, they got everything else. And they don't have small ranges. They're actually, Norway has enough of a range that when people worry about stuff, it's like, well, they get by absolutely no problem. China, even interesting, I just saw last night where someone had made a comment that all I see is electric vehicles in China. Mexico, I'm even seeing BYD, the big company out of China, they now have dealerships in Mexico. They're now setting up their network as well.
Shouldn't we be getting some of those Chinese-made vehicles here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think part of the problem is that we're being very protectionist about the big three. And I get that because, we're protecting our jobs. We're trying to create and keep something that, Canada has had for a long time. But that being said, I think there's got to be a balance that we need to kind of do between that and an opportunity to, I've seen auto journalists go to China and come back and say the big three don't have anything on these Chinese vehicles because the technology is so well done. So.
Okay. You can listen to this conversation and think, maybe this is for me. Maybe I'm more curious than I knew before this conversation. But you'll get a chance at the event coming up this weekend with the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association to learn even more for yourself in a firsthand way. We'll continue the conversation, talk about that event coming up with our guests in studio, Mark Coughlin and Ian Graham, on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. National Drive Electric Month begins tomorrow because tomorrow begins October, in case you weren't keeping track. In studio with me this morning, the founder of Waterloo Region's Electric Vehicle Association, Mark Coughlin, and Ian Graham, a member of the association. We've been talking an awful lot about the experiences of these two gentlemen with their electric vehicles. Mark was saying earlier, he's on his third. He's never going back, and that's what most people find now. Once they adopt the technology, they do not turn back from it. But let's move the talk into some action here, Mark, and the event that's coming up this weekend right here at the Boardwalk, if I'm not mistaken. And this will give people who might be curious, maybe more curious based on our conversation already this morning, a chance to get firsthand up-close experience with EVs.
Exactly. We'll have experienced owners that own and operate EVs in the region. There's going to be over 30 different model types at this event currently. We're going to have pickup trucks. We're going to have regular cars, sedans, SUVs, be the full gambit. So if you have some interest in how your lifestyle can fit into EVs and how it would work, you can come speak to actual owners that own and operate vehicles here and have the goods on it. We're not trying to sell you anything. What we're here to do is give you the straight goods. You can ask your questions. We have answers because we have the experience.
It's a big place up here at the Boardwalk, but I'm sure with that many electric vehicles, you won't be hard to find. But how will people know? What are the times and things we're talking about on Saturday?
Saturday from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. It'll be at the north end of the Boardwalk in the parking lot near the medical center, closest to the road out front. And we'll have signs and banners. We're going to have some big vehicles. For example, Bright Drop is coming with their huge delivery van, which is all electric. We're going to have, like I said, some of the big pickup trucks. City of Waterloo's coming out with their fleet of EVs that they use for work here. And we've got some vendors lined up that are coming out. Jones Electric is coming out. We've got VCT, which is a solar group. So if you're interested in solar, you can come talk to them. We will not be hard to be missed.
All right, so that's by the medical building here at the Boardwalk, north end of the parking area by that medical center. Starts at 11 on Saturday, runs through until 3. Ian, you talked earlier about sort of the community that you became a part of when you saw that tweet, got inspired, wanted the day off from your reno anyway, and boom, next thing you know, you're part of that community. What's that community of fellow EV owners like?
Inspiring, because we have those who are about town and they have their experiences that way, and then we have other members of the group who are as I say, the extreme. We have one guy with 500,000 kilometers on his Model 3, another guy in Guelph who's like, I think, 700,000 now. And then we have those who do these road trips, from here, like Mark did to, California. And it's just really cool to see what these people are doing. And it's not just the EV aspect. They're getting into, like I said, with the solar aspect with their homes and outfitting it that way. But then we have these guys in the Ford Lightning show up and they're doing like crock pots out of the front hood with, food and stuff like this. I've done my solar hot dogs as well. But it's just... the other inspiration of it, too, is like we don't necessarily have it here, but in the States, for example, with Florida, sometimes with the hurricanes, you then see people who are powering their home with their electric vehicle. And, that's another part of the technology I find is inspiring is that some people say, oh, you're going to take the grid down. No, we're part of the grid. 90% of the time, if you look at the car, where is it? It's sitting in your driveway or it's sitting in a parking lot. If the grid actually has problems, California just had a new announcement that they're putting in chargers that are bidirectional. So if the grid goes down to a certain point, the electric cars can actually help offset that because there's all this power in them. And again, you can do the same with your home. The point of having a generator at your home is almost pointless now. So there's a lot of cool inspiration. And of course, we also have a lot of people in our group who have very, very different backgrounds. We have the single moms, we have the retired couples, and then we've got, the people who are very into science. And I think everyone's always sort of like, what's happening now with this technology? It's kind of like watching, this, say, smartphone technology develop. Every year is something new and interesting about it. And we, have some great conversations in regards to where is this going.
Did I hear correctly, Mark, that Ian said you did a trip to California in your EV?
Yeah, when I first got my Model 3, I took a trip. The family, we all went from here to San Diego, straight through, used the existing charging network, did not have one hiccup, one issue. Followed it, towards Chicago, took Route 66 all the way down to San Diego. It was a fantastic trip. Loved it.
No kidding. And no reservations whatsoever.
None. Didn't have any reservations. Just went as we went. Decided if we wanted to stay at a hotel that night. We picked it as we were driving. Was able to get charged, no problem. Didn't have any issues completely. It was just a great trip.
Interesting. And Ian, you were talking earlier about all of the things that you have done at the home, at the cabin, et cetera, plus the electric vehicle. I mean, isn't all of this really expensive?
No, not even close. Just to give an example, just on the solar side of things, 15 years ago, I first put in my solar, and a 210-watt panel was $900. I can get 700-watt bifacial, meaning both sides, for less than $400 now. And those things are powerful, like extremely. And also you have low light. They're getting it with clouds and everything else. So again, it's like seeing that technology. It just keeps bumping up and up. It's like the smartphone technology. It's in that S curve. It's just going up. And to Mark's point too, with the trip, any worries? Like when I did Mexico. I mean, I was a little concerned at first, but once I started doing it, like this was one of the best trips I've ever had, and really, really enjoyed it.
And your car will tell you where the charging stations are. Yeah,
but we also have on the phones, we have different apps,
sure,
like Plug Share as well. You
yeah.
know. I thought you were going to say my car just drives me, but it does, which I know you're indifferent on.
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I still trust humans more than I do computers, but nonetheless. Yeah. Mark, what about the argument of the environmental impact of mining for those batteries and then ultimately disposal of them? Are we being as environmentally friendly in the EV industry as some might lead us to believe?
We absolutely are with the EV battery packs. Certainly, they do last a long time. For example, we've got a number of members that have had the same pack in their car now for over 12 years, and they're still going strong. So, but at the end of the life cycle, wherever that is, they have the ability to cash in because that battery and the minerals that are in that battery are worth something. So they can take that battery to an appropriate dealer, and they can recycle that battery. And what's even a bonus is that the materials in the battery, as they're recycled, they become even more pure and become a better bargain for the next group that's buying them to put them into brand new batteries. So it's a plus all the way around. There's nobody that's burying their battery in the backyard after it's like throwing money away. They're worth something. They get recycled and they get reused.
All right. We start tomorrow, National Drive Electric Month, and there's an event here at the Boardwalk in Waterloo coming up on Saturday. You won't be able to miss it. Dozens of electric vehicle enthusiasts, vendors, etc. City of Waterloo, as Mark said, will be there 11 until 3, North End by the Medical Building here at the Boardwalk. And if you've got any questions, if you've thought about adding an EV to your family, this will be the day to get your questions answered. 11 till 3 on Saturday with the Waterloo Regional Electric Vehicle Association. Always good to see you guys. Mark, thanks for being here. And Ian, it's nice to see you in person instead of just on the phone. Thanks for coming in.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for being here. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio, and we're going to have Hockey Helps the Homeless. The 12th annual tournament conversation is coming up. Rogers TV as well. We are just over 3 weeks away. 3 weeks from this Friday will mark our 12th annual Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament here in the region of Waterloo. The chair of the volunteer committee with Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo region, Rob Way, joins me in studio and wearing some vintage Los Angeles Kings purple and gold. I love it, Rob.
I'm a Laurier grad,
Okay.
in honor of the football team and how they're doing.
6-0?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, get behind that.
Yeah,
looking
for sure.
good as always.
Thank you.
As long as it's not bleu, blanc, et rouge, we're going to get along just fine.
Okay.
Okay, Craig Erner is here as well, vice chair of this volunteer committee, decked out in Quebec Nordiques colors. Looks good, Craig.
It's supposed to be Kitchener Rangers, but it kind of not.
Yeah, you need
really.
darker blue for that. Let's go
exactly.
Quebec. Quebec's Nordiques is good.
for
Okay,
sure.
I can do that. And Natalie Schill is with us as well. Natalie is the development director with the House of Friendship. Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning, and I missed the memo.
No, you're in orange. You're fine.
Yes, I am.
It's funny, actually, at home just the other night, my beloved said, do you have a Hockey Helps the Homeless jersey? I'm like, do I? We got a couple of them because we're going to be attending your draft night, so we'll be decked out in ours as well. I've got a black one. I think it's a little bit...
and a purple one, don't
do I? No, I think I have a lighter blue than you've got. I think that's the other color.
The powder blue one.
The powder blue one, yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
the Farwell's going to look good on Hockey Helps the Homeless draft night. Rob, let's start with you. I mean, 24 days away now. How are we feeling?
We're feeling pretty good.
Okay.
We've got a couple of areas that we could use some help. We're short a few players, so we could use some free agents. So, if you're out there and you're sitting in the dressing room and you're saying, man, I wish I could have taken a pass from an NHL pro in my life, this is your chance. So you and a couple of buddies can sign up. Just email robway@rogers.com. We'll get you onto a team, and you can live out a dream. So that's one thing we're working on. The other thing is we still have our pennant sponsorship program open. So if any organization out there would like to sponsor us for $1,500, they can get a pennant. And the pennant's the kind of thing that you see hanging from the, Maple Leaf Gardens, the old and I know it's a different design because they've changed it since 1967. But the more recent design, if you go to Montreal, is there. So that's something that folks can help us out with as well. So.
That's 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike.
You shot the first shot.
I did. But that one, wow. I like it though. And that email address that Rob shared, by the way, is as easy as it sounds. Okay, Rob, R-O-B, Way, W-A-Y. robway@rogers.com. Get in touch with the young fella. He'll hook you up with a team. And you touched on this, and I want to go just a little bit further. But you say, how many of us have won the Stanley Cup or scored an overtime winning goal in Game 7 in the driveway, playing beer league, whatever it is, playing pickup? And you get a chance, though. You'll be not only on the ice with this Olympian or this former NHLer, in the dressing room, hearing some stories, the camaraderie. That's one of the coolest parts of this event.
Yeah, and these pros are more than hockey pros. They are great guys. Yeah. So, they, like you say, the dressing room is so much fun. Like half the time we can't even get them to come out of the dressing room to go up and have lunch. They're having so much fun with them. So, it's a great day's experience.
All right. Remember that email address. Get in touch with Rob, robway@rogers.com. Natalie, over the years, this tournament has raised more than $2.5 million, and that supports organizations just like the House of Friendship and the work that you do in our homelessness space. What do the contributions from this tournament mean to the work that you do?
Oh, it is incredibly impactful. The need, I think a lot of people realize the need continues in our community, but abroad. And so having community partners like Hockey Helps the Homeless, Rob, and the committee, continuing to move this forward is incredibly impactful for the work that we do. It allows us to continue imagining, supporting those who need it. And so having them in our corner is always something. I mean, we're not going to put them in the penalty box, but having them in our corner, Hockey Helps the Homeless is definitely supporting many community partners in our region.
As you mentioned, the need is not going away. how does the work that the House of Friendship does fit into the space here in the region in terms of the support for our homeless community?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of different ways in which House of Friendship specifically supports the community. We do have 4 major pillars, but Hockey Helps the Homeless, where they really like to keep their focus, is with our shelters. And so it's very visible in our community. A lot of people are seeing the visibility of homelessness in our community. And so we continue just to push forward. We continue to walk alongside those who need our support. And it's ever changing. And so, not to get into the nitty gritties of the possibilities to support the homeless, it is something that we continue to move forward. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing work.
Yeah. Craig, we talked about how free agents can still get involved. Anybody interested in playing on the 24th? I mentioned the 24 days away, but let's just make sure you know the date. Friday, October the 24th, Rim Park. That's where the tournament's happening. robway@rogers.com, the email address. The night before the actual tournament, Craig Herner, is draft night, which will include a live auction opportunity. There's an online auction already public as well. But tell us other ways we can support by fundraising, Craig.
Oh, by fundraising? Yeah, definitely donations. That's the key part. That once the players, get moving, then the total really goes up real fast. But yeah, if you want to donate, just go to wr.hhth.com. You can click the donate button and donate to either the event, the team, or if you know a player that's actually playing, please give them a donation for sure.
Yeah, they're the ones getting passes from pros, but we're going to give them money. We will do that. And then on draft night, what happens there?
Oh, so draft night's a real fun night. So everybody gets fed a nice meal by Chef D. And then we have our presentations and our impact speakers, which is very important. That's kind of one of the highlights of the night. And then we also have our live auction, which you're going to be helping out with. So we have 4 great items that night. So we have a hockey day in Toronto hosted by Gilbert Dion. So you get to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, you get to go out for dinner, and then the Leaf game that night. We also have Hockey Day in Winnipeg. So the game on Saturday, January 17th, when the Leafs are at Winnipeg, you get 4 tickets for that, a meet and greet with Mark Scheifele, and also $2,000 in spending money.
That's amazing. It goes a long way in Winnipeg, too.
Exactly. And then we have the private dining experience at Dell's at Charcoal Steakhouse. So that's a great one for 8. And then we also have the Kitchener Rangers Sportcaster for a game with Mike Farwell.
And we have priceless on that, don't we?
Priceless.
You did put priceless on that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That one's priceless. So those are the 4 big items we have at draft night. And if you're not able to attend, just email Rob Way and he will hook you up with, getting your bids in beforehand on that.
I'm glad that email address is so easy. robway@rogers.com. And you talk about those live auction items, which, yes, I'm more than happy to help with. And if you're going to be there or you want to email robway@rogers.com, when I'm an auctioneer, I feel all the pressure. I have to impress these people. We have to make money for them. So I'll hook you up with a great sportscaster for a game with the Kitchener Rangers, among those other prizes, which are awesome. Meet and greet with Scheifele is fantastic. A product of Kitchener Minor Hockey, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah,
and both
sure.
packages have the Leafs involved with them. Unfortunately,
listen, I'm stuck with.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't. Fans of these New Jersey Devils to my right, and I can't even mention the team to my left. The online auction as well, Craig. Please help us get to that because I was perusing it the other day, and we were just talking off the air about Oktoberfest being underway, and I saw there is some a meal at Concordia is up. I don't want to give away the ones I'm going to bid on, raise the prices, but there are so many items available.
Yeah, exactly. So just go to wr.hhth.com and hit on the online auction link up in the navigation bar. But we have great team stuff. So Habitat for Humanity has donated a build day for 10. So that would be great for companies or a group of people to bid on that. We also have the Kitchener Rangers Suite for the Tuesday, November 18th game with the Guelph Storm. And you also get a $500 food credit from Peak Realty on that one as well. So you get the Club 63 Suite for the night. So that is a real nice one. And also we have our Ultimate Hot Experience from Ginger Goat Hot Sauce. And so it's 8 of you get to go to Morty's. You get free wings, free Molson beer. And yeah, it's a great night with Chris with the ginger goat hot sauce.
Chris is such a beauty. He's such a good guy, but he tortures me because I don't do hot sauce well at all. But that's a great night. And of course, Morty's is involved because that's what Jay and Soupy do. So wr.hhth.com, that online auction open right now.
Yes.
Right? And you can make your donations there, etc. Rob, let's bring this back around to 11 years and more than $2.5 million raised to date. What do you think when you hear a number like that?
Well, I think it's over 32,000 shelter bed nights. And when you take it back to that number, I feel good about what our community is doing out there. But I also step back and I go, we got to do a lot more because the need continues to rise, and it's up to us to make a difference. And, just to kind of close, one of the things we have is we have over 250 players and participants out there who are going to be fundraising. And that's what it's about. It's about hockey and people have fun, but really it's about folks asking others to help us make a difference in the community. So back to the point on it, if you know somebody that's playing in this, don't wait for them to ask you. Reach out to them and say, hey, I hear you're playing in this. I'd love to support it. And, make our participants' job a little easier. So
I always make a donation to Carl Kiefer, but I should have done it sooner because he sent me the usual text. He's nudge. Come on, Farwell. I'm Mr. Kiefer. I'm there. I promise I'll make that donation. Natalie, you talk about the need and how sadly, tragically almost, we've seen the need increase. But at the same time, not only with an event like this are we raising money, but we're raising awareness too, which I think goes a long way.
It really does. And that's something that Hockey Helps the Homeless has really put at the forefront. It really has given a platform to be able to talk about it. We like to remove the stigma of it as well. And so seeing the community come together, seeing hockey players, seeing people come together on a committee and have these conversations it's really hopeful for our community. Awareness is really important. And if you don't know, ask. Ask questions. If you don't understand what's happening, ask. Come to the experts. Having advocacy is so important. Having people get involved is so important. And if it is something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, come to us and ask, and we can help.
How critical is fundraising to the operations of the House of Friendship?
Fundraising for all the non-for-profits that do benefit specifically from this hockey tournament benefit tremendously. It allows us to plan for the future. When we know that community partners are coming together to fundraise on our behalf, and this is something you had mentioned, 11 years, this is something that it's consistent, it's something that we can rely on, and it pulls in the community for advocacy, for awareness, and we're so thankful.
Rob, you always set a really big, hairy, audacious goal. What are we hoping for this year?
Well, we're hoping to achieve an investment of $350,000 to the community. And I just want to be clear, that's not what we raise. That's what we are actually going to be intending on giving to the charity partners. So, it's a big number for them. And I'm confident that we're going to get there. We just have to... now is the time you roll up your sleeves. I always say to people, it's a little bit like a wedding. You do all this planning, but the last couple of weeks, at least after 43 some years, I think that's what a wedding is like. But now it's kind of go time. So
yeah, it is.
I always love being in this season. Love the work that you all do, specifically, Natalie, you and the folks at House of Friendship supporting folks in our community who are marginalized and struggling. So I'm going to ask you to remember two things. The email address, robway, ROBWAY, robway@rogers.com, and the website, wr.hhth.com. Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo Region. Our 12th annual tournament comes up on October the 24th. Thank you all for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I do always enjoy those conversations with our friends from Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo region. I don't know where Rob Way, the chair of the volunteer committee, gets his energy. Honest to goodness, the guy inspires me. He really does. Craig Herner, the vice chair, similar story there. And Natalie Schill was with us this morning as well, the director of development with the House of Friendship. The House of Friendship, one of those 6 local organizations that benefit from the fundraising done here locally in support of Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo region. $350,000 is the goal that will be distributed out. That will be the money directed into our community through the annual tournament, which comes up on October the 24th. Details at wr.hhth.com. Keeping it in that same vein of hockey, would it surprise you if I told you the most popular sports across Canada and where you would find the game of hockey? A new survey by the Strategic Council shows that more than 3/4 of Canadians identify themselves as sports fans. And the most popular sports league for us Canadians to follow is, well, of course, no doubt, hockey. The National Hockey League is tops. 58% of respondents say that is their sport of choice. Next on the list, in second place, the NFL came in with 37%. Major League Baseball at 34%. A surprising one for me, the CFL, 32%, ranking in number 4. And then the NBA, 29% support from sports fans is the top 5. If you wonder how much deeper it goes, Formula One racing at 6th and professional tennis at 7th, with 20% from people in this country that identify themselves as sports fans. But I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that the National Hockey League comes out on top. I might argue, though, that at least in this moment, if we were to take the survey again, most people are going to identify themselves as baseball fans, right? Because how about those Blue Jays? Wild Card series get underway today, but the Blue Jays are just lying in wait. They will open on Saturday against either the Red Sox or the Yankees, because the Blue Jays won their division and they get a bye through the wild card round, and they just wait to start the divisional series, and they'll start it at home at the Rogers Centre. So I have a funny feeling if you were to ask the question today about favorite sports, a lot of Canadians would be saying baseball right now, because there's a wee bit of Blue Jays fever running through the country. But the survey by Strategic Council found hockey at number 1, the National Football League at number 2, Major League Baseball 3rd, the CFL 4th, and the NBA 5th. If you take it a step further and go deeper into the research conducted by Strategic Council, how about our favorite athletes? Well, you would probably not be surprised that, based on hockey being the most popular sport, Connor McDavid, captain of the Edmonton Oilers and former Erie Otter, I might add, from the Ontario Hockey League, has been identified as a favorite athlete, followed very closely by none other than Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Rounding out the top 5 favorite athletes by respondents to this survey, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, couple of footy stars, a.k.a. soccer, and the 5th most popular athlete, according to the survey from Strategic Council, Austin Matthews, who just so happens to be the greatest hockey player in the world today. But did you notice there's an Edmonton Oiler, a Pittsburgh Penguin, and a Toronto Maple Leaf in the top 5 favorite athletes? I don't know about you, but I don't hear the name of a player from the team that shall not be named. Listen, Strategic Council did the story. I merely report the story details to you. And that's what we know about our sports fandom in this great land of ours. Today happens to be, speaking of this great land of ours, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. You might have a different timetable today, given whatever your workplace does to recognize this day. But we are here and we are ready to hear from you, because our final hour together every day is reserved for your phone calls. It's open lines for something we call Talkback. So maybe you've got some reflections on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation you'd like to share. Maybe you've got some thoughts on the New York Yankees banning Canadians or preventing them from buying tickets for any future Blue Jays games at Yankee Stadium. Bunch of babies in the Bronx. Maybe you want to talk about this AI actress, if you will, Tilly Norwood, who's causing such a stir. Open phone lines. Talkback begins on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I got an email from our buddy Clinton, who is an official Farwell Force member, number 35 to be exact. Clinton's email to Mike at 570news.com reads as follows. Hi, Mike. I can't help but wonder, how come you're on air today while your fellow hosts at the sister stations got the day off for Truth and Reconciliation? Did you volunteer for the overtime or draw straws and lose? Either way, it's good to know someone's dedicated and keeping the conversation alive for us Farwell Force members. Thanks for that, Clinton. Here's the funny thing about that. I didn't know that my friends at our sister stations here at Rogers Kitchener Radio were not going to be on the air today. I came to work like it was any other day, knowing, of course, that it's the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and we devoted the first hour of our show to conversations around the significance of this day. But nobody told me nothing about alternative programming or other options for my attendance today. I wouldn't turn down a conversation with you, though, if I was given the choice. Like, hey, Farwell, do you want to go in and have conversations with people, or do you want to stay home? I'll take the conversations every day of the week and twice on Sundays. I really will. When I was off for a day last week, suddenly, because I got hit like a runaway freight train with some kind of bug, and I was knocked down. That was it. I hate to admit it, but I really was. And I don't like missing those opportunities to engage in conversation with you. So in light of, because it is, I'm just being honest with you, it is a very strange place here today. Like, unless I go out into the hallway, if I leave my studio so I can run to the little boys' room, the motion sensor lights, they go off. Like the hallway, I look out my studio door and it's dark because there's nary another soul. Well, I got Devin, our guy on the other side of the glass. He's doing his thing. We got our 570 News Center doing their things. But I brought butter tarts to work this morning because I'm Canadian, eh? And ain't nobody eating them because there ain't nobody here to eat them. But I know you're here, and I appreciate that. And that's why we open up this hour every day with open lines so that we can hear from you. Let us know what's on your mind. And one of the things I was thinking about, going back to the Farwell Show 5, these 5 little bits of information I give you that I think you might be interested in as we start our day every day. How about the Leger poll that shows that about a third of Canadians, so we'll call it 30% and a bit, believe that this country belongs first and foremost to Indigenous peoples. But 40% don't agree with that at all. So more people believe that Canada does not belong primarily to Indigenous peoples than believe that it does. And the younger you are, the more likely you are to believe that this country belongs first and foremost to Indigenous peoples. But if you break it down, just with the straight numbers, about 40% of the respondents to the Leger poll say, no, Canada does not belong primarily to Indigenous peoples. And only about 30% say it does, which I'm a little bit surprised about. Listen, I understand the to the victor goes the spoils idea and argument, but they were here first, and then along then along the rest of us came. I don't know. Anyway, we could maybe riff on that a little bit. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Does Canada belong first and foremost to Indigenous peoples or not? Open phone lines at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. We'll start things off today with Tom. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you, Tom. How are you?
Yes, I think we have to take care of the stuff we did with the Indigenous people, and but we should have some kind of protection and overall, because when the CBC did a factual thing, the most corrupt ministry is the Indian ministry. So we're putting all kinds of money and it's not going in the right place. That's my only thing.
All right, Tom. You know what I love about talking to Tom is he always starts with, how are you? And I answer, and then I ask him back, but he's done with the small talk. He wants to just get right into his point. I have not seen the CBC exploration of the Ministry of Indian Affairs and being the most corrupt in Tom's words, but I will say this. I struggle to think of, off the top of my head, any ministry in our federal government that actually can account for all of the money that it spends. I'm sorry, I'll take you back to the beginning of the show today when I emphasized, I won't say I sounded the warning, although I feel like for years on this show I've been talking about it. We don't spend money responsibly, period. As governments across the board, federally, provincially, municipally, we're not spending responsibly. And at some point, there's got to be a reckoning for that. And the parliamentary budget officer told us we're basically at that point of reckoning. So what does the federal budget look like on November the 4th? I'm very curious. We could go back to the early 1990s. It was a Liberal government under Jean Chrétien, Finance Minister Paul Martin, and they got things sorted out financially, but quick. We can go back about the same number of years provincially to Conservative Premier Mike Harris and the Common Sense Revolution, and he got the books fixed, but quick. I know there's lots of conversation in hindsight about how that was accomplished and the impact of it. Some say the impact that we're still feeling, but if we don't get a reckoning like that we got under Jean Chrétien federally and under Mike Harris provincially, I don't know what to tell you other than brace yourself, because it is going to get awfully rocky out there. I'm not trying to be a doomsayer here, but financially, it just seems to me as though the belief is that we can just keep printing more money or just keep spending money without any consequences to it. No, I'm afraid that the chickens are at the front door. They're coming home to roost, and we best fix this stuff. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent from Tom's point about the Ministry of Indian Affairs. I think there is not a ministry that I can find that is spending its money responsibly. Not one, in my opinion. Now, not that I've seen yet. I mean that. If I missed that ministry, please tell me the Ministry of Financially Sound Spending. I'd love to meet that ministry and the minister of it. Anyway, Dallas, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, you just said everything I wanted to say.
Well, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but Tom got me fired up. Talk about the money like that.
You know what? You're absolutely 100% correct on every point that you just said. From the top on down, they're out of control. Like Canada Post is on strike again because they want this and they want that. But at the end of the day, people, if there's no more money, there's no more money. Give it up. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I know this much, Dallas. There ain't no more money. Full stop. There's no more.
Right. Right. Simple as that. Like at some point in time, somebody has got to put the brakes on this stuff and say, you know what? Okay, if it's going to hurt a few people, it's going to hurt a few people. If it hurts me, fine. But at the end of the day, the brakes have got to be put on.
Dallas, you are so right about that. And I like what you said at the end there. If it hurts me, fine. I'm feeling the same way because you know what's happening? You're hurting everybody. Like, we are ski-rude with a capital ski in all of this unless we sort it out. And since Dallas so wisely pointed to Canada Post, I got this email and I saved it because I think the language in it is just, it amuses me a little bit. It came from the Toronto and York Region Labour Council through the Newswire late yesterday afternoon. And it's a rally that's happening tomorrow between 11 and noon at the constituency office of an MP in Toronto. But the rally, and this is the actual language in the title, it's a rally to save the post office. Can I ask, please, who in HE double hockey sticks wants to save the post office? Like, what do we want to save the office that's losing $10 million a day? I'm not saying that we should do away with all mail and all sorts of delivery to our homes. I'm just saying the post office, as we know it today, who the heck wants to save that thing and keep funneling billions into it while it refuses to change? Give me a break. You want to? I'll give you something to rally for there, Toronto and York Region Labour Council. Jiminy Christmas. This is the Talkback Hour where you make the call, start the conversation, and we'll just see where it goes from there on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I admit that was a bit of a tangent on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. But what I think we need to reconcile, you see, is our debits and our credits and follow some GAAPs, generally accepted accounting principles. Look, that's the basics I have from high school accounting, but I kind of got off on a tangent about the budget, which I just wonder sometimes if it's so unwieldy that our leaders just try to avoid it because it is such a tangled mess. How are we ever going to untie all of the knots? I truly hope, forget austerity. I hope that our prime minister comes in with a machete and starts hacking and whacking away at things to try to right size our government, its spending priorities, you name it, because it just seems to me like a great big mess. But I'm just a guy sitting here in Kitchener wondering what kind of future my kids and grandkids are going to have. Oh, who knows? It'll work itself out. Talkback is 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Dennis, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I wanted to weigh in on this poll. Indigenous. This is obviously being taught to our young people, but I want to provide, I guess, a different perspective. Totally.
Sure.
My uncle was a historic history, master's in history, and also a legal scholar, and he traced both my grandmother's roots on the French side, my French-Canadian to early Quebec and early Nova Scotia. And that's all documented. I have books on it. And basically what happened is a lot of young men came over here from Europe, and guess what happened next? And in the case of my Nova Scotia connection, there was formal marriage to Native, and it was celebrated. And so the point is that, I'm sitting here today, I've got Native blood in me. And let's look at another side of academics, like grade 10, maybe math. We all have 4 grandmothers or grandparents, 16 great-grandparents, 64 great-great. So you go back, 12 generations or more, and that's millions of people. And clearly there weren't that many people back then. Bottom line is, if you're French-Canadian, you've got probably some Native blood, probably 99.99% Native blood. And if we look forward, I have a nephew who married a Thai girl or Thai woman, and they have 4 Thai kids, and those kids have Native blood. So I think if we start looking at it intellectually, what is Native? What is Indigenous? And as time goes on, it becomes less so. Now, if we're going to implement the Nuremberg laws, the racist laws that Hitler came up with, to define what, where is this thing going? So anyway, the point is, let's look at some facts, and I think academia has to start looking at facts.
Well, I can certainly see where you're coming from with those extrapolations of one's ancestry for sure. But I think if we're talking also, Dennis, specifically Indigenous, those would be the people indigenous to the land, the first ones here, right? Well, and I don't know how I don't think we can math that away, so to speak.
No, but if those women married men and had children, what's Indigenous? In the Jewish faith,
well, that woman then would be the Indigenous.
Defines whether you're Jewish or not.
Right.
So the point is that there was intermarriage going on. So, and by the way, let's be clear. The Nova Scotia connection is Micmac, and guess what happened to them? The half breeds. They got shunned by both sides. Let's talk about that. They got it both sides. So, how do we recognize those people?
So, I guess if I'm understanding then, based on the poll, that I was surprised to see the numbers in the Leger poll that says about 40% of those surveyed do not agree that Canada belongs primarily to Indigenous peoples. You would be in that group.
No, fine. I'm part of it. I've got a Métis card. I've got Native blood. So, yeah, but so does probably more than half the population, and I think as you look forward, it's just going to grow and grow. So it becomes in my view, a charade. So yeah, let's acknowledge it.
Okay.
And on my Irish side, let's go back 500 years to what Cromwell did to the Irish. And they took away our lands and estates and castles, etc. So where does this thing end?
It's an interesting analysis of it, Dennis. Thanks for weighing in today.
Take care.
You as well. Always good to hear different perspectives. I always feel as though I learned something from talking to you. That's why I'm here today, Clinton. When you emailed earlier wondering about my coworkers who are not. We're here. Grant is here on the phone with us for Talkback. Hello, Grant.
You're hilarious.
Oh, thanks. You know what? I'm going to save this audio from the show today because earlier Dallas told me I was 100% correct with everything I said, top to bottom. You said I'm hilarious. I'm going to go home and share this with my beloved and say, look at the smart, funny guy you married.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on the Canada Post thing. It's gotten way out of hand.
You think?
And I think the union has got to tell their members there's no money. Face reality, there's no money. Enough is enough. Or Carney should step right in. I understand there was supposed to be some kind of binding arbitration, and they chose not to take it, or what the case may be. But Carney needs to step in and lay down the law. This is it. This is enough. We don't have any other places like big corporations that are so far into debt, and it seems like a nonstop presence of you wanting this, when there's nothing there. And this Yahoo that's running it, he's so far into debt. So I think they need to either privatize it, have some courier place to deliver your mail. They're not.
I hear. Listen, Grant, I get it. We see private courier companies making profits delivering parcels to homes across this country. So if the private side is demonstrating an ability to do that, why on earth can Canada Post not be a profitable company, or at least a revenue neutral organization. And I think the federal government has intervened to a point here by essentially restructuring the way that Canada Post operates. But still, the union is dug in saying this is not the direction that we are willing to go. I don't know. But the rally to save the post office, I'd love to know how many people show up to it. Because I can't see that being a rally a lot of people can get behind. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Talkback Hour is your daily opportunity to have your voice heard. You can weigh in on one of the issues we discussed on the show earlier today. I got an email from my buddy Kelly. He wants to know if, in the interests of balance, I will now have somebody on the show to promote our continued use of gasoline-powered cars and trucks, because we had the Electric Vehicle Association of Waterloo Region on the show earlier today, talking about Drive Electric Month, which begins tomorrow, and their event, the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association, this Saturday at the Boardwalk from 11 until 3. Anybody curious about entering the electric vehicle market is free to attend and learn a whole bunch of stuff. No, I don't think we'll have one of the big three on in the near future, in the interests of balance, but I understand that the email was typed with tongue firmly in cheek. Nonetheless, maybe you want to weigh in on an issue that we talked about on the show earlier today, or something else is going on in your neighborhood in this community. We're always happy to hear about it and engage in the conversation. Let's get back to the phones. Greg, good afternoon.
38 here.
Farwell's Force member number 38. Good day, sir.
Hi there. A nice, simple question. I'm going to guess you might not have the answer. I might have to look into it. But, okay, NFL football. Playoff teams get buys. They reseed after the first round. Any idea why baseball doesn't do that? Like the Jays are definitely getting stuck with the winner of Boston or Yankees, as opposed to, say, Detroit puts out Cleveland. Detroit's the sixth seed. Like why not reseed once you see who's there?
Yeah, sorry. Above my pay grade. No idea. No idea.
Yeah,
but
it seems like it should be. Like I don't know. It's the same structure to start with, and then they do it different. And I just wondered, if any listener knows why and wants to phone in and tell you, I'll still be listening. But yeah, I thought, okay, that's just like the playoffs in hockey. The Leafs always keep getting stuck, Tampa and Boston kind of thing, because of the format. But this format equals the football one, and yeah, they see who wins, and then put them all in order. Bottom goes to top. But why not baseball? So that's all food for thought, I guess. So.
All right. Well, listen, Greg, I appreciate it. Here's what I think. I think that, first of all, sports and playoffs, too many teams are making it. And I understand, I do. Like, you want to keep it interesting until the end. How many exciting races did we have into the final week of the season in baseball, right? So those markets are engaged in their teams, watching every game because their team still has a chance to make the playoffs. But there's a part of me that misses the days of old. And obviously, I grew up a Blue Jays fan because they were the team that we had around here. And you had to win your division to get into the playoffs. That was it. That's the only way in. And now we've got multiple wild card spots available, and meh. So there's that. But even with the way that it is today, I really don't understand why you don't get to play the team. If you have the best record, then your first opponent in the playoffs should be the team with the worst record. It's like that's the way it should be, in my opinion. You should get rewarded for your regular season success, right? So if you were the first seed, you should get the bottom seed. And if those other seeds in the middle have to play off before you, because you have a bye, whatever it is, you should get the team with the worst record. It's kind of simple as far as I'm concerned. And one more thing on this, just because Greg got me thinking about it, talking about baseball. I was kind of annoyed. I will not tell a lie. I was kind of annoyed when the Blue Jays celebrated the way that they celebrated when they clinched a wild card spot, when they clinched a playoff spot, as opposed to clinching the division and or the pennant, right? And they didn't do that, clinch the division and pennant, until the last day of the season. Do you think maybe it's because they celebrated like they'd already won the World Series just when they clinched a playoff spot? I just act like you've been there before. And really, what had they done at that point? Yeah, they made the playoffs, but maybe I'm not paying enough attention to other markets. But I don't see every team going that crazy just because they made the playoffs. I think the Blue Jays could have waited. I'm glad they won the division and the pennant. And then by all means, celebrate your face-off. Although this seems to be a uniquely baseball thing to me. I don't know of the hockey teams that throw those parties when they clinch a playoff spot. But I could be mistaken on that. And did you see the Cleveland Guardians players? They didn't just shake up champagne bottles and spray it all over the place. They rolled a few doobies and had a smoke. You Cleveland Guardians. That's what's going on there in Cleveland, eh? All right. I would have thought that was going on in Seattle, but Cleveland. Okay. Terry, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I wasn't going to call in, but the previous caller there, he got me thinking. But just quickly, you were away last Wednesday, wasn't it?
Yes, it was last Wednesday. Thanks for keeping up with my schedule, Terry.
Yes, I keep the score. Anyway, Mike, what would happen? I know you've missed a few Ranger games in the past few years because I think you had COVID the one time and whatnot. And I know Mark Perry filled in for you. What would happen now if you were unable to make a game? Who would fill in? Because Mark does the Guelph Storm on TV, right?
Terry, you are right that I missed hockey when I had COVID, which was 2021. I haven't missed a game since, I'm proud to say.
So is there a backup that would fill in for you?
Terry, you know what? That's a question best not asked because it might put into the universe the possibility that I fall ill and miss a game.
Okay, I think, don't want to jinx you.
Thank you. No, I have great faith in our newest member of the broadcast team, Josh Piercy. I think he could step in and do the whole thing by himself.
Anyway, going back to that, the playoff seeding, the NFL is the only sport that does reseeding after the first round. The other sports like baseball and hockey, they do the bracket. And the only reason that is, Mike, the NFL, they don't care because they attract audiences regardless. Is because of playoff pools, and that way you know exactly who the next. It's easier to do playoff pools, like office playoff pools. That's why they do brackets now. Basketball, hockey, and MLB does the brackets. That's why they don't get reseed after the first round.
I think that it's really just catering to the lowest common denominator, isn't it, Terry? If we can't figure out who we're going to play next, or we have to, wait for the round to finish and then enter our picks or do whatever we're doing. Boy, we got some problems. Like, shouldn't we be able to figure it out?
Okay.
All right. I think Terry's all gone here. I don't know where Terry went. I think was Terry at the drive-thru? Terry was talking to somebody else. He was certainly not talking to me. Anyway, I'll just leave that there. That's a lot of sports. This is 570 News Radio, not Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Although I do enjoy me some sports. JB, my man, good afternoon.
It's too bad that's what I'm going to talk about.
That's okay. Talk more about sports.
It's more about the whole thing where, let's expand the wild card round to...
Stupid. Everybody gets... It's like being on Oprah.
Every dollar out of it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And honestly, for baseball season being as long as it is, can we not go back to the single elimination wild card game? Like that's about the only thing that football gets right with their postseason is that it's one and done.
But you gotta admit, like a 7-game series, especially in hockey, is one of the greatest things ever.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the wild card specifically.
No, I got you.
The early, best of 3. That's exhausting. No. There's a lot less pressure when you're doing that.
Okay.
Oh,
I can get behind that. I'm with you.
Thanks, Farwell.
All right, JB, good to hear from you today. Appreciate it. So, if I may, then just take it even further on the sports, and I think you're going to agree with me on this, right? What baseball has done, not only watering down the playoffs, that there are now multiple wild card entries. You play a series instead of a 1-game elimination. It really is like the Oprah Winfrey-ing, yes, of sports. You get a playoff spot, and you get a playoff spot, and you get a play. Everybody gets a ding-dang playoff spot, and it's kind of exhausting. But in baseball, do you remember like the famous Reggie Jackson, Mr. October? because that's when baseball playoffs were happening in the month of October. I know baseball playoffs are starting tonight, and tomorrow is October. However, given the wild card teams and series that now happen, the teams that have to be eliminated to get finally to the World Series, we oftentimes end up in November before baseball is done. And you're watching these games played by who we like to call the quote-unquote boys of summer, and the fans are sitting in the stadiums in their parkas and their toques, and they're shivering, and they're watching the summer game of baseball. It is utterly ridiculous. So unless you're going to fix this nonsense of, and I understand, my capitalist heart can understand squeezing every dollar out of the game, as JB mentioned. But if you're going to do that, and you want to squeeze every dollar out of the game and play the games into November, then you got to play them on a neutral site, domed stadium, or warm weather stadium, or make every stadium a domed stadium, so the poor fans aren't sitting there freezing their derrieres off because you're playing baseball in November. It's ridiculous. At least I think it is. Maybe you think differently. You can tell me what you think on the Talkback Hour. Every day, noon to 1, and we are in the midst of it today on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Talkback Hour is when we open the phone lines, so you get to do just that. Talk back to us. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Back to the phones we go. Double O George, Farwell's Force member, 00. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'm going to tell you that I like the new format. Here's the reason why. I'm old enough to remember well the old system where only 4 teams went into the playoffs. And for a lot of cities, your team was out of it in July and August. Now I like the fact that 6 in the National League, 6 in the Eastern League can fight and vow to see if that outside team has a chance to win the World Series. The one thing I agree with you, though, is it can't go into November. It can't. You have to end it before Halloween so that October 29, 30, it should be over.
George, really appreciate the call. And you know what? I'm with you. As a sports fan, I love the drama. I do. I love the excitement. I love the playoff races, and they are plural now because you nailed it, right? The Blue Jays of the mid to late 1990s were out of it by July, and the Blue Jays of the late 70s and early 80s as they began their climb to their first championships. Yeah, you don't really want that, but the purist in me is like, then you're getting the best of the best, right? Only those division winners make it through. But I get it. And to JB's point earlier, listen, we all know what makes the world of sports go round, right? The money that is involved in it. So I get it. And the excitement that's generated, for sure. Clearly we agree on it being a summer game, and it ought not be played so deep into the fall, for sure. Keep it a warm weather sport, please. Mary, you are on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Here's Force number 1.
Mary is Farwell's Force member number 1 with a bullet, number 1 in our hearts.
Yeah, and a force for change, a force for good.
And a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, darn tootin'. Anyway, you probably won't like this, but I hate baseball.
What? Mary?
I hate it, but listen, Mike.
I'll listen.
So the pitcher comes out.
Yeah.
On the mound, blah, blah, blah. It scratches certain parts.
Oh, my goodness, Mary.
Spits. Maybe give another scratch. And, my God, how can you take it?
Well, here's what I like about it, Mary. When he's done spitting and scratching and doing all the things, then he throws the ball at almost 100 miles an hour. And there's a guy standing 60 feet, 6 inches away that has to hit that ball.
Okay, but Mike, I'm a hockey gal from New Hamburger.
I know you are.
Anyway, listen.
I'm still listening.
Mike with a mic, and hey, I didn't hear Gary last week.
I know. I'm sorry. So, okay.
Well, you know I need my half hour of laughter. Come on.
I know you do.
Come on with your coming on, okay? Have a great day. It's
Thanks.
beautiful.
Thank you, Mary. You too. It is a beautiful day. Oh, there's a lot for me to unpack right there. Mary loves her Gary, her half hour of laughter on Thursday mornings, which is a fixture on this show, except recently. Thursday mornings, 10:30, is Living Retired with humor columnist Gary Chalk. And he speaks as well as he writes, and we always have a laugh on Thursday mornings at 10:30 when he's here. But we've been a little inconsistent lately because I was away and then Gary was away. And last week, when Gary was all set to be back with us, we had a technical issue that we couldn't connect with him. And so it's been a while. But I promise you that 2 days hence, this Thursday morning at 10:30, Gary Chalk and Living Retired will make their triumphant return to our show, and we'll all have a little bit of laughter on our Thursday morning with Living Retired. The other thing I just wanted to touch on, because Mary brought it up, a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. That's what we call Farwell's force. And this was kind of just a silly idea that grew legs of its own. And we are now up to almost 180 official members of Farwell's force, as in the force behind this show. You. And if you give me 15 minutes a day to join us here on this show for a little bit of information, a little bit of entertainment, I hope maybe we even have a conversation because you call in, that's even better. But whether you call in or email in or not, you're out there for 15 minutes a day. That's all I ask. We'll make you a member of Farwell's Force, and we'll add you, give you your own official Farwell's Force membership number. At some point down the road, I'm going to figure out like a door prize or maybe a booby prize for being an official member. But we'd love to have you join us because, as I said, and Mary mentioned, we are a force for good. We're a force for change. We're a force to be reckoned with. We are taking credit for Doug Ford's cancellation of the speed camera program because we rose our voices as the force we are to get rid of those ding-dang things. So thank you for your help in that. Drop me an email anytime, mike@570news.com. Tell me about that 15 minutes you listen every day or more, and we'll give you a Farwell's Force membership number. Greg, good afternoon.
Yeah, Mike, same Greg, just another thought after.
Wait a minute. Same Greg, different phone number. You called in on a different line. You're sneaky.
Well, you encourage that when you get busy signals, so I figured it out.
All right, good man.
So, okay, so no, I'm just thinking that if any sport, baseball should be one where there's more than just the two division winners because you play 162 games, and to miss the the cut by one, when there's like back in the olden days, like. I'm glad to see there's more out there because now say they did something like that to the OHL hockey and Kitchen Rangers end up second. Oh, well, only the division leaders go on.
Greg.
How would you feel? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you how I'd feel. Do you know what second place is?
The first loser.
Exactly. I listen. Okay. I like the best. I like the pursuit of perfection.
But if your team has a great season, and sports is volatile. Anybody can win any given game for the most part.
Yeah.
Do you think the whole season should just go down the drain just because of a couple of points difference? It's like
have a greater season.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, I appreciate it, and again, I can see both sides of it. George made a very good point earlier about how exciting it is to watch the teams and watch the playoff races. I get it, but deep down. In my heart of hearts, I like the pursuit of the top of the mountain. Let's climb that mountain. Let's be the first one to the top, and everybody else sucks to be you. Sorry that you lost. And I say that as somebody who was never very good at sports, but always tried his damnedest. And I wanted to be number one. I want to be number one on this show, but I already gave that number away to Mary. Mary, Farwell's Force member number 1. She's got her official number. Drop me an email, mike@570news.com, if you'd like an official membership number of your own. All you have to do is give us 15 minutes of your time every day on this show. and we will gladly welcome you into our growing family that is the Farwell Force. Looking ahead at our show tomorrow as we wind things down today, we're going to talk about the dire state of our country's finances. Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business will join us to talk about that at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Blue Jay Hunter will be here. We'll talk some baseball, political R&D with Rob Deutschman, and lots more, including Blacklock's reporter minding Ottawa's business. All of that coming up on the show tomorrow, which will start, as it always does, at 9. Looking forward to connecting with you again then. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.